Purdy doubters are still chirping at the bit. And I really don't get why people don't think that Brock Purdy is good enough to get the 49ers to the Super Bowl. This is somebody who started last year as the third string quarterback behind Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. He got no first team reps, and he came in against the Miami Dolphins and lit it up. And ever since then, this dude has been balling, and yet he's still not getting the proper respect he deserves. And I think a large reason why people hesitate to put a lot of stock in Brock Purdy this season is simply for where he was drafted. People equate where somebody was drafted to potential. There's still people out there, believe it or not, who believe that Trey Lance deserves the opportunity to be the starting quarterback for the 49ers this season, despite how far Brock Purdy took San Fran last year, which is unbelievable to me. You see, that's what I like to call politicking. Politicking is where you don't start the better guy. You start the better guy for other reasons not related to performance on the field. And Trey Lance hasn't been a good performer. This dude doesn't even play all that well in practice. Brock Purdy takes the 49ers to the postseason and deep into the playoffs. And many 49ers players, if you listen to Deebo Samuel tell it, if Brock Purdy never would have got injured against the Philadelphia Eagles, the 49ers would have won that game and they would have went to the Super Bowl. So I don't get why people in the NFL world are just so hesitant to put a lot of faith and stock into Brock Purdy. Oh, JT, he was Mr. Irrelevant. He was a one-hit wonder. It doesn't matter where you're drafted. All that matters is how you perform on the field. It's a performance-based league. So why are we still questioning Brock Purdy? Why are people saying that Brock Purdy isn't good enough to get the job done when there has been plenty of quarterbacks throughout the history of the NFL who weren't considered elite at the quarterback position to win championships? I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo not too long ago took the 49ers to the Super Bowl, and if he never overthrew Emmanuel Sanders, maybe they win that game. And maybe how you view Jimmy Garoppolo is a little bit altered if they win that Super Bowl against Kansas City. Brock Purdy has a great team around him. A good offensive line, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Chris McCaffrey. That's one of the best trios in the NFL to have if you're a young quarterback. And you look at Brock Purdy, for somebody to come in not having no first team reps at all, that shows preparation. You don't often have a quarterback who comes in with no first team reps, not really having any chemistry with any of the starters, who just balls out like that. Brock Purdy was the best rookie quarterback from last year's draft class, and he was the last pick of the draft. Better than Desmond Ridder, Kenny Pickett, and all the quarterbacks that were ahead of him. You just don't see that very often. That's something that you see in the Disney movie. And if you're still doubting Brock Purdy, I ask you why. Is it because you don't think he's talented enough? It's not all about talent. Some of the greatest quarterbacks that ever played this game had limitations. Tom Brady had limitations. Drew Brees had limitations. He didn't have the strongest arm. He was undersized. The best quarterbacks in this game are the ones that know their strengths and they play to what they do best. And you have a head coach that's able to have Brock Purdy, who put Brock Purdy in the perfect system. I don't know how many of you guys watched Brock Purdy during his time at Iowa State, but he was a several-year starter. He had a lot of experience, and he won a lot of games during his time at Iowa State. And you saw how bad Iowa State was once he left. And when you look at Brock Purdy, one thing that he does incredibly well is how he processes defense. He sees it and gets the ball out fast, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And everything that Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't do, Brock Purdy could do. And you look at Trey Lance, this is somebody who still is a very inaccurate passer, still struggles to read defenses, and doesn't have that much experience playing football, not just at an NFL level, but football in general. He didn't really play a lot of years and have all that much experience when he was quarterbacking for North Dakota State. Brock Purdy is in a conference that doesn't really have strong quarterback plays. Who are the best quarterbacks in the NFC that potentially could stop the 49ers from reaching the Super Bowl. You have Jalen Hurts, the best QB in the NFC, and then who after that? Aaron Rodgers is gone. Jared Goff, Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith. I mean, I love Geno Smith. I love Justin Fields. I love Jalen Hurts. But outside of Jalen Hurts, the NFC really doesn't have any elite quarterbacks. It's not top heavy like the AFC. Now, if this was the AFC, it would be a different ball game because you're not going to make it out of the AFC strictly based off coaching. There are just way too many good quarterbacks on that side of the NFL. But you look at the current state of the NFC, there's no great quarterbacks, which leaves the door wide open for the 49ers to be able to win with a Brock Purdy, being able to win off great coaching and having a talented supporting cast around them. Brock Purdy has good mobility. He's really accurate in the short and intermediate passing game. And I think that if given opportunity, Brock Purdy has a really nice deep ball. Name me one thing that Brock Purdy can't do that Jimmy Garoppolo could do. Name me one thing that Trey Lance is better than Brock Purdy at right now. The only thing that Trey Lance has on Brock Purdy is athleticism. That's it. Brock Purdy still, you shouldn't sleep on his mobility. There's plenty of times when he was able to extend plays, get outside the pocket, and pick up yards with his legs. He just wasn't asked to do it that much because of how good the offensive line was. And when you look at how he performed all last season, he didn't have any games where he struggled. And then you look at his first ever playoff game against the Seattle Seahawks, there were people saying, oh, this is where the Brock Purdy train ends. And then he ends up balling out. Now, although he did start that game out pretty slow, he ended up leading the 49ers to a 41-23 victory, completing 60% of his passes, 332 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. And he played pretty well against the Dallas Cowboys, who had arguably the best defense in the NFL outside of San Fran. You just don't see this kind of performance out of a quarterback that doesn't have first team reps, doesn't have good time with his teammates, and it's the last pick of the NFL draft. There's a reason why they call it Mr. Irrelevant. They kind of make a joke out of it. It's kind of more of a meme than it is versus somebody who actually gets taken serious. Brock Purdy wasn't afforded anything like Trey Lance was. The 49ers basically forced Trey Lance to be the starter, despite the fact that he didn't outright beat Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo was the better quarterback than Trey Lance, but Trey Lance ended up just getting the wishes of Kyle Shanahan, and they basically sit Jimmy Garoppolo for all the training camp. They try to trade him away. It doesn't work, and then Trey Lance gets injured, and then they need Jimmy Garoppolo to save the day, and then he goes down, and Brock Purdy still is able to get them far in the postseason. I don't get why people continue to doubt Brock Purdy. It's not all about talent. The greatest players to ever play this sport had limitations. Not all of them, but a good amount of them. And Brock Purdy, everything that Kyle Shanahan needs him to do, he can do in this offense. This offense is predicated off timing, getting the ball out fast, play action, being able to get outside the pocket and make throws. There were a lot of throws that Brock Purdy made that you would never see Jimmy Garoppolo be able to do, being able to change his arm angles. I think Brock Purdy is being heavily disrespected this season. I don't think that the 49ers Super Bowl chances take a hurt with Brock Purdy being underneath center this year. I think that a lot of you guys keep trying to paint a narrative about somebody just from where they were drafted at versus just trying to judge guys based on how they performed on the field. This is a performance-based league. It's not based off politicking. Many of you guys are politicking with this situation. Trey Lance needs a shot. No, he doesn't. He hasn't proven anything. Brock Purdy has a winning record as a starter. The 49ers went undefeated with Brock Purdy at the helm at QB. So why would you think that he hurts their Super Bowl chances? Oh, JT, it's his second year. They got film on Brock Purdy. These defensive coordinators been watching tape all summer on him. Bro, do you know how lame and worn down that whole, oh, they got film on him argument that's some of the worst arguments that you can make in the year 2023. Everybody's watching film. Do you not think that Brock Purdy isn't getting better despite the fact that he's coming off that elbow injury? He's still working. He's watching film. He's trying to get better. He's trying to develop. He's trying to improve. Defensive coordinators aren't the only people who watch film and can get better. Newsflash, quarterbacks can too. Stop using that casual argument. That's what you are, a casual. Oh, they're watching film. They're going to have a better understanding of his tendencies and what he has to do. That is a bunch of bull jockey. I'm trying to keep it rated G today, but that's a bunch of bull crap, man. Stop with the lame arguments. Give me a reasonable argument or debate for why Brock Purdy hurts the 49ers' chances of making it out of the NFC. They have a great defense. They have a great supporting cast around him and a fantastic head coach. Brock Purdy is good enough to lead the 49ers to the Super Bowl, and if you're doubting Brock Purdy, this dude is a lot better than what you may think. What if Brock Purdy ends up becoming a top 10 quarterback? Some of you guys still won't give him the recognition for that, simply for where he was drafted. Stop trying to tie people's potential to where they were drafted. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, and he was a 6th round pick. Antonio Brown is one of the greatest receivers of the past decade, and he was a late round pick. There's been previous players who've had Hall of Fame level careers that were not picked in the 1st round. Stop trying to tie a narrative based on where somebody was drafted. Just because where you was drafted doesn't equate to talent, because scouts get this wrong every single time. If the 49ers had the chance to redraft and they had the pick between Brock Purdy and Trey Lance and could only have one of those guys on their roster, given with how they've seen both of these guys perform, who do you guys think they're taking? Brock Purdy or reaching for potential with Trey Lance? I'm pretty confident that 99.999% they take Brock Purdy all over again. I think the 49ers Super Bowl chances are fine with Brock Purdy at the helm at QB.